a couple of minutes after 1, and I can see we have quite a comprehensive number of guests so far, so I'll begin. My name is Karen Cove, and I'm a Senior Manager in Early Help and Prevention within Cheshire West and Chester Council. And for the purposes of this launch event, I am the Programme Manager for Cheshire West and Chester for lots 1.2 and 1.4 of the ESF Journey First project. It's especially lovely to be able to talk about such a project during these really difficult times. It's especially great for our teams to have such a positive project to work towards during this time, to be talking about things other than COVID, although COVID clearly does affect the work at hand, but to be able to work towards something very positive for young people and adults. So it's just absolutely lovely at a time like this to be able to launch something like this and to be able to talk about positive work going forward and the support on offer for young people and adults at this time. So we're very, very grateful for that. We're very excited about that prospect. Throughout the course of the event today, we have a number of speakers, Phil, Helen, Ruth and Lisa. They will be introducing themselves to you and going through their particular parts of the presentation. As you can see in the chat, the session today is being recorded, and we will have a question and answer session at the end. If there is something that particularly warrants your focus, during the presentations, and you think, I want to answer that, I don't want to forget it, please pop it into the chat facility, because that will be being monitored, and we'll make sure that is picked up at the end. And the question and answer session will introduce you, as well as to the other members of the team that I have already said. We'll also introduce you to Lee Edwards, who is another member of the operational management team for this project. So without further ado, I'll move you over to Phil McCartney for him to introduce himself this afternoon. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. I've unmuted myself this time, which I think was a problem on the last presentation that I did. I'm Phil McCartney. I'm the ESF Programme Manager for Journey First. A little bit of housekeeping. I have been asked by the team is if you aren't presenting, if you could please turn your camera off. They've advised me that when we go on to questions and answers later, it will make it much easier to ensure that we're answering all questions. As Karen said, we are recording today's presentation and launch. If you're not happy for yourself to be recorded, we do ask if you could come off today's launch, and we can share this with you when we send out the information at the end of the presentation. Okay, what I wanted to do is to give an overview. I don't want to go into too much detail because I know that the information will be given in other presentations. So I wanted to give very much an overview of Journey First. So Journey First is funded by the ESF, the European Social Fund. It provides intensive one-to-one support for young people and adults across Cheshire and Warrington. And the project has secured a total of almost £5.5 million in funding. Journey First will be delivered by Cheshire East, Cheshire West and Warrington. Journey First offers support for young people and adults through support staff working within existing teams across the sub-district. The teams assess each participant's individual needs and focus on a range of complex needs that prevent progression into training and employment. So what does Journey First offer? Firstly, it offers one-to-one wraparound support. Now, the wraparound support enhances, continues and supports existing provision. It is tailored employment advice, and it identifies each participant's skills and goals, which will help participants to meet employers' needs. It allows participants to find out about different career paths locally, and it helps participants to prepare for the workplace. It does ensure that participants feel more positive and confident about their future, and it helps participants to be more independent and financially secure. Our participants will be young people aged between 16 and 24, including cared for children and care leavers who are not in any form of job or training or education. Young people with special educational needs, and we can also work with young people who are at risk of becoming NEET. So that will be our cohort who are between the ages of 15 and 16 and identified as being at risk. We'll also be working with adults, and there is the maximum age is working age really. So we can work with people between the ages of 16 and I believe current retirement age of 67. And it's adults who have a range of barriers to employment or complex needs, including mental health and homelessness. Over the next 3 years, Journey First will help over 5,000 young people and adults. Our outcomes as set by the ESF look at education and starting education, starting training, employment and sustained employment, and obtaining basic skills qualifications. So what makes us unique? We add value to existing provision. We do offer a bespoke approach, and we help those on the cusp of needing support. We do offer a wide range of interventions and signposting opportunities. And what makes us a little bit different is we have set ambitious outcomes. So our targets are higher than the national ESF targets when we look at employability and sustained employment. Our progression routes into we offer progression routes into other programmes across the sub-region, and we have targets based around educational attainment as well as employment. And we're also focusing on softer targets. So our outcomes are based around employment and education, but we have set softer milestones which will be celebrated, and those milestones helping someone on their journey and pathway into employment and education. So that's me. We will be sharing the presentations. But if there are any queries that anyone does have, please don't hesitate to contact me. We are also today sharing our Twitter page. So we will be sharing lots of information on Twitter about Journey First, and we do ask and welcome people to come and follow us on Twitter. So thanks very much everyone for joining us, and I hope to speak to you all soon. Thank you.
Hello, if I can ask Helen Brackenbury to do the next part of the presentation. Thank you, Helen.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to welcome you all to the formal launch of the ESF-funded Journey First project. I'm extremely pleased to be here at this milestone point for the project. Over the past 5 years, Cheshire West and Chester Council has worked with sub-regional partners on a number of really successful projects, and we're really delighted to be part of the Journey First programme. I think it's fair to say that our partnerships have changed and grown since we as a council first started our early help journey, which was back in 2013. We're all continually striving for the best for individuals, families and young people. And we know that we do the best job when we work collaboratively. The pandemic has been a particularly difficult time for many organisations and for our residents. However, it has shown the strength and importance of working together across the Cheshire footprint. and this programme will certainly highlight this. The recent success of the supported internship programme proved that for young people with the most complex needs, employment is achievable with the right support, and Journey First will provide this vital support to many families and individuals across our Cheshire and Warrington footprint. Journey First is a unique programme which will allow adults and young people to make a real difference to their lives. It provides intensive one-to-one support for young people and adults across the sub-region, helping them to reach their goals, whether that be support for job searches and employment or access to further education or training. As is already highlighted by Phil, the programme will help over 5,000 individuals over the next 3 years and will add value to existing provision that we already have across Cheshire and Warrington. We know that employment makes a significant difference to people. It increases self-esteem and confidence, allowing people to create friendships in ordinary settings. It also offers a sense of purpose, an opportunity to gain an income, provides choices, encourages independence, builds purpose and resilience, which ultimately can reduce the reliance on the support that's needed to support needs and access statutory services. Journey First is a bespoke approach. It's unique in many ways. It acts as a progression route into other programmes across the sub-region and has targets that are based around educational attainment along with employment. It helps those that are on the cusp of needing support while providing a much broader and wider range of interventions. After the start of the programme in July, we were able to undertake an extensive recruitment process in Cheshire West and Chester, with the first people in post within the local teams from September. These individuals have gone on to build relationships within and across the local teams and across the sub-region ahead of beginning their direct work with young people and individuals in the target cohorts. And now all the technical infrastructure is in place. Although there is a crossover between the two lots, 1.2 and 1.4, the main focus for early help and prevention services is supporting young people as part of lot 1.2. This means that we will identify young people in a range of ways, either from our existing cohorts that we work with in our young people service, through our wider teams within early help and prevention, or through colleagues working in both education and children's social care. It also means that people can access via referrals from partner agencies, and additionally young people can make direct referrals to the project team themselves. Without further ado, I'll leave it for the rest of the afternoon for you to hear about the work that's ongoing at the moment, and just thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Helen. And now we come to Ruth Joinson, who will be talking particularly about lot 1.2. Thank you, Ruth.
Thanks, Karen. Hi, everybody. I'd just like to introduce myself. My name's Ruth. I work on what we were talking about then, lot 1.2. So I work under Helen's Directorate of Early Help and Prevention. So my job title is Senior Practice Lead for Young People Services. I work along a colleague of mine, which is Lee Edwards, and he'll be on the panel later as well for you to ask questions to both of us. So I just wanted to tell you today a little bit more about what we do, what Young People Services is all about, and how this works within the Journey First remit. So many of you know that we have our staff working in schools across Cheshire West and Chester. So in every school, which includes high schools, mainstream schools, special educational needs schools and colleges, to offer intensive support to those young people who need it. That includes those with EHC plans and those who are cared for children. We also support those who are looked after, those who are care leavers, and all those who have already become NEET. So if they're not in education, employment or training, then we would be working with them already. We also work very closely with all of our schools and colleges so that we can identify these young people early on, so that we can start doing some work with them and try and prevent them from coming neat. So this is what we do at the moment. The Journey First programme project is enabling us to have more staff. So we've built on our staff team. So as Helen said, we took through that recruitment process. I'm one of those people taken on in post, and we've got a number of other staff members who've joined us, which are helping us with Journey First and to make this a real success. We take referrals, as Helen explained, from many different people, but we are made aware of those young people by the schools themselves and colleges who may be at risk of NEET. And that's one of the real bonuses of this project, is that we can work with those who are in year 11 who could be at risk of NEET, and we can put in some of that very intensive support early on before they leave their statutory education. So this is what we do. This is what Journey First will be all about. We're going to support a high number of young people over the next 3 years. You can see the figures there. Again, we'll aim to be working with them when they hit year 11, so they can be age 15 or 16, right up to the age of 24. And Lisa, who was going to present after me, she'll explain how that works in terms of the crossover. So we may have a crossover with the 1.4 aspect of the project, where we've got young people who may be between the ages of about 20 or 24. They could fall into young people services, or they may be more appropriately worked with our staff in the work zones, and we will ensure that each of those young people gets the correct support from the correct service. But the idea is to give them some very intensive one-to-one support for whatever their barriers are, to make them achieve their goals and achieve employment, education or training, whatever is right for them. So as I've explained, it can be any young person who is age 16 to 24, and including those who are age 15 and those that are, they have to be currently in year 11. As we know, there are some 15-year-olds in year 10, but we'd be looking at those that are year 11, age 15 or above, who are at risk of NEET. Those with SEND and those who are in care or care leavers, but again, have to be within our age group. So there's a list of barriers that we may find that these young people are finding it difficult to access some provision. I've put a few examples on, but actually the list has about 12 to 15 other examples on there, but they are barriers that we all come across on a day-to-day basis. So there's kind of an example of a few. So if somebody is NEET or at risk of NEET and has at least 2 of these additional barriers, then they would fall into the criteria of us being able to offer them that intensive support. So what does the support look like? It looks like a young people service worker would be doing the one-to-one, face-to-face, hopefully in the future. We're working virtually at the moment, but ideally in the next couple of months we'll be doing one-to-one support. I can see there's some questions coming up we'll answer as I'm talking through. We look at their barriers. We look at creating an action plan, doing an initial assessment and creating an action plan for each individual young person. And if they need signposting to other services, then we would do that as well. Another real positive about this particular project is that we can support those young people even when they found a positive outcome. So when they go into employment or an apprenticeship or a college course, whatever it is that's suitable for them, we can continue to support them for as long as they need it, up to about 6 months, to help them maintain that placement, help them maintain what it is that they're doing. And if they come across any issues while they're in that employment, for example, then our workers can support them with that to try and enable them to stay within that work placement. So it's very, very flexible, the support that we can offer, and it continues throughout their journey. So I've just drawn a bit of a pen picture of a young person who we've already started to support through Journey First. I'll let you read that through. Obviously, we've changed names so that it's anonymous, but this is a young girl who has become NEET, unfortunately, but she has a very good worker supporting her through this. We've tried to look at what it is that she needs, what have been her barriers in the past. She has found education quite difficult. She has found working in big groups quite difficult as well. So she's had that option of college while she was in year 11. She was there for 1 day a week, but she's very, very motivated. She would like to achieve, and she'd love to get an apprenticeship in childcare. So we need to be looking at what are the barriers for this young lady? What can she do? What can we help her with so that she can achieve her goal of gaining an apprenticeship in the future? So she found talking on the phone very, very difficult. So one of the softer outcomes that Phil mentioned before was things like communication. A lot of young people find actually speaking on the phone very difficult. This young lady much preferred face-to-face, and we were able to do a home visit before Christmas, but they have now progressed on to doing video calls, which in itself is a really good progression for her. And at the moment, we're looking at a training provider to offer her some virtual online learning, which she wouldn't have done previously because she wasn't comfortable with doing virtual work and speaking over a video call or laptop. So that has already been achieved, and she's on track for signing up to a training provider in the next week or so. So this is just an example of the action plan that was set with this young lady. Some of the things that she needed support with, as you could see from the previous pen picture of her. So lots of things like increasing her confidence, looking at how to put a CV together, speaking over virtual calls and using a laptop rather than a phone. All of this is enabling her to increase her skills and get her ready for future learning, for future applying for apprenticeships. So they've worked on a CV together, this young lady and her YPS worker, and that's already been done. And she's now ready to start looking at working with a training provider to work on a maths and English, which will eventually enable her to gain that apprenticeship that she really wants. So the example of the action plan will come up on the next slide. The idea of Journey First is to enable the young person and their worker to set targets together. And that's what's happened with Abigail. She's been able to look at what she needs to achieve, when she's going to achieve it by, and who's going to do that. So you can see there that she'll be doing some of this herself, but with the support of her YPS worker. Her mother is also very supportive, so she's able to put in some of these actions as well. And that's enabled her, as you can see by the dates in there, she's achieved the majority of those actions already. So she'll continue to receive this support for the next 12 months. And as we said, hopefully enable her to gain that apprenticeship in childcare. So as we said, most of our young people, hopefully we're aware of, we're working with those who are NEET, we're working with those who are at risk of NEET. But as any of you here, if you're aware of any other young person who you feel would benefit from our support, then please send an email to our Journey First email address. And I've put my contact details on there as well. I'll now hand you over to Lisa, who will talk about 1.4.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lisa Shakespeare, and I'm the Project Coordinator for the Adult Side Journey First for Cheshire West and Chester Council. Journey First is a voluntary employment support programme, and over the next 3 years, we will aim to support 820 adults across Cheshire West and Chester. Our team of 9 employment support officers will work with small caseloads, providing an intense employment support programme, helping customers to break down barriers, realise their goals, and support and guide customers to gain paid employment of 8 hours or more and enter into education or training. We have a dedicated Journey First team of around 20 staff working across the borough, with the knowledge and skills to provide customers with the support and guidance required to move customers into a positive destination. Our employment support officers have fantastic links with local employers, and we uphold a great reputation as a council with employers utilising our resources for recruitment and filling vacancies. Our staff also have great local knowledge and links across the community to support customers with debt, housing, and any other issues that impact as a barrier to gaining employment. We are already an established training provider through our work zones who deliver bespoke training courses to customers, breaking down barriers and helping customers to progress in life. The Journey First programme for adults with complex barriers will deliver 5 main areas of targeted support. So we have adults with complex barriers, and for this cohort group, our employment support officers will deliver a Journey First service from our 4 existing work zones. So we have Chester work zone with Anna Marie Lee, Northwich we have Jen, and in Winsford work zone we have Deb, and in Ellesmere Port work zone we have Lewis. And then we have our integrated services where we have Naomi, who works alongside our primary and secondary mental health service, supporting customers with mental health conditions. And then we have Hassan. Hassan works alongside the adult social care team and takes referrals for customers with learning disabilities. And then we have Mark. Mark will be focusing on our families and the wraparound services around family support. And then finally, we have 2 peripatetic staff who will be working in the community to support customers from Patrick, who will support customers from the Blacon and Leach area. And also we have a vacancy for a employment support officer who will support the drug and alcohol services. Journey First participants can be supported for up to 12 months. This slide gives an example of a customer's journey from registration to a successful outcome. All customers will be provided with intense one-to-one support throughout their time on the programme. Our employment support officers will build strong relationships based on trust and commitment, ensuring a high level of contact to keep customers engaged. As well as the education and training provision, we also have access to ESF discretionary funding, where we hope to link in with our community partners and voluntary services to provide opportunities for Journey First customers. The funding will also provide customers with the equipment and tools needed to progress into education, training and employment. Job sustainment is also important to us, and we will continue to monitor and support customers for up to 3 months after securing employment. So I've now got a short case study. This is from Hassan, one of Hassan's customers, and this was referred by the adult social care team. For the purpose of this exercise, I have changed the customer's name to Sarah. So Sarah has low self-esteem, mostly due to the current COVID-19 restrictions, but generally happy and ready to improve her career prospects. Sarah enjoys walking and agrees that keeping fit and healthy will make it easier for her getting back to work. She's currently in receipt of regular medication, which maintains her epilepsy condition, and she's had no issues for quite a long time. Sarah is keen to strengthen her use of basic skills, especially around English and maths, as well as develop more confidence and motivation before getting back to doing paid work. Sarah has a little work experience through working in retail in the past, which is where her love for working with animals came from, and she would like to learn skills in dog grooming and animal care, whilst also comes across as flexible and ready to consider more career options and personal development. From the outset, Sarah and her father were provided with a wealth of information about the Journey First programme and how it could benefit Sarah through providing her with regular one-to-one mentoring, addressing her personal and employability development needs, and how potentially she could continue to access in-work support once in paid employment. Hassan, with the help of Sarah's father, carried out an in-depth assessment of needs and agreed many areas of development. In the initial assessment, they looked at ways of promoting Sarah's health and well-being through demonstrating regular commitments to keeping fit and healthy. They agreed to address her motivational skills and confidence, building through participation on potential group work skills training, as well as explored various options of utilising pre-employment training to increase her resourcefulness and to becoming more job ready when approaching employers. In the course of planning for the way forward, Hassan has also agreed to look at updating Sarah's CV, offer her access to regular job search skills and vacancy sourcing, as well as consider work trials that may lead into paid employment. The steps agreed were documented into an action plan in which Hassan has had to take into consideration current COVID-19 restrictions, whilst also ensuring realistic expectations and milestones for making real achievement. Hassan is confident that with continuing to work flexibly around Sarah's learning disability barriers and employability skills developments, they will make tangible progress that will offer Sarah excellent career development prospects and work towards paid employment that Sarah can enjoy. So that was the case study. So for our eligibility criteria for adults, it starts from 16, as Ruth has said before, and there will be some crossover with young people's services. But Ruth and I will work together to make sure that we decide on the best pathway for that customer. So it might be adult services or it could be young people's services. So customers need to be unemployed or inactive for 6 months or a mixture of both to make up 26 weeks. And they should have at least 2 barriers to employment and have the right to live and work in the UK. So we have already started to establish links with key referral partners and started taking referrals already. I will be out and about, albeit virtually, over the next few months, attending meetings and getting to know local service providers. Referrals for the Journey First programme can be made through our 4 work zones or through our integrated employment support officers based in services across Cheshire West and Chester. Alternatively, you can send your queries or any referrals to the Journey First mailbox and someone will come back to you. Finally, if you have any suitable customers for Journey First, please let me know.
Thank you very much, Lisa.
Thank you.
Okay, for this next part of the event today, we propose to have a question and answer session with the following people on named on screen, who will be the panel answering the questions. I propose that we go through the normal process on Teams. So if you wish to ask a question, please raise your hand, and I will nominate a member of the panel to answer that question. If someone else within the panel wants to add anything else, they will in turn raise their hand, and we will get a comprehensive answer to you. And if you could remain off camera if you are not part of the panel, that would be fabulous. If you feel comfortable and confident to go on camera whilst you're asking your question, please do so. And I noticed that one question that Ruth did answer did come through on the chat, and it's just to make sure that everybody saw that. Ruth, we were asked whether it was any SEND, young people with SEND, or just education healthcare plan, and your answer to that, Ruth?
Yeah, my answer that I typed into the chat box was that yes, it can be any young person with any diagnosis of SEND or has special educational needs. They don't have to have an EHC plan, so in that way it's very flexible.
Thank you very much, Ruth. Okay, I can see a question coming in from Katie Greenwood. Thank you, Katie. Lisa, this is for you in particular. You mentioned there was additional ESF funding to fund charities delivering support services that could help customers reach their goals. Could you talk a little bit more about this, please?
Yes, so we do have some ESF funding, and there will be opportunity to work with our services to deliver courses and training and development for Journey First customers going forward. So we can work with other organisations in the borough to support our customers to move forward in any way.
Thank you very much, Lisa. Phil, would you like to expand upon that?
Yeah, we do have a small pot of money which is discretionary funding for individuals with complex needs. So that, you know, if we feel that there is a barrier which we do, you know, the individual needs additional support, we are able to access that funding. So it may well be that we're reaching out to partners for that additional support as well. That will be on an ad hoc and an individual basis.
Thank you very much, Phil. Are there any other questions? Sally.
Hi, thank you. It's just one for Ruth, really. It's just about young people service, and could you just explain us a little bit more about what what outcomes you'd be looking for from our service and how that would look, if that would be helpful? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Sally. So in terms of outcomes for our young people, it is whatever is the best option for them. So we would aim to look at what their aspirations are, what they would like to achieve. So for most young people, that's going to be either employment, it could be a job with training, an apprenticeship, it could be a college course. We know now we've got options such as supported internships. We've got courses that are delivered very flexibly, a mixture of online and face-to-face learning. So there are many outcomes that would be achievable for each young person. And again, we'd look at it on each individual basis and what's right for them. But we would always aim for that young person alongside giving them advice and guidance as to what's the best option for them, whilst giving them all of those options, because sometimes they won't know what's available to them.
And Lee, would you like to add anything to that?
Just to add to that, really, that Ruth touched upon it in her presentation before, because what this will enable young people service to do is have continuity of support once that young person achieves their aspiration, whether that be education, employment or training. We are able to continue that support to ensure that that young person maintains that placement. Because often in the first few weeks, that's when we find our vulnerable young people at most at risk of dropping out as well. So we can provide that ongoing and sustainability as well.
Thank you very much. Kerry?
Hi, sorry, I had to join late because I was in another meeting, so I missed Ruth's part. So it may have already been answered in the presentation part. It was just obviously I work for Ancora Hub, so we are like a special school in Chester. It was just about this. I caught the end of Lisa's presentation, and it was about the customers having to be in 6 months inactive or 6 months. So in terms for us, I obviously have a working relationship where I might get hold of young people service if a young person is going to need picking up if I've not been able to get them into something for the following September. Would we still refer in the same way, and then you guys would decide once whether they would go onto the Journey First programme? Is that how it would work?
Claire, did you want to answer that?
Better unmute myself. Yes, I do want to come in there. One of our cohorts is that 6 months plus unemployed, but our other cohorts, there's not that requirement to be unemployed for that length of time. They would meet the eligibility through the number of barriers they've got. So you'll see we'll get a sort of an initial referral form out to you, but yeah, we would do all the checking on that eligibility side.
Okay, that's fine.
Do you want to add anything, Ruth?
Yeah, just sorry, Kerry, because it was covered a little bit in my presentation, which we're going to send out to anybody who missed it anyway. But okay. Yes, those young people that you work with, once they are in year 11 and they're over 16, then we can, or even 15 in year 11, yes, you could refer them to us as you do in your usual way, and they would be eligible for Journey First. And then definitely if they then become NEET after statutory school age, then we would definitely be working with them in the same way, but we're able to offer more intensive support to them.
That's brilliant, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I can see that there's a couple of questions that have come through on the chat. So from Cheryl, if an individual requires a laptop for an online course and isn't qualifying through school or college, will the project be able to support this? That seems an ideal question for yourself, Phil.
Hopefully I've come off mute there. Yeah, there is additional funding available. What we would like to try and do is work with other organisations that will be able to assist with that as well. So we are acutely aware that at the moment that the DWP have programmes in place that can help. There are charities and independent training providers who can offer laptops dependent on the course of study that someone's in. But we wouldn't like the not having a laptop or not having those digital tools to be a barrier to them engaging on this programme. So again, Cheryl, it's really looking at each individual need and what requirement that they have to ensure that we remove those barriers.
Thank you, Phil. Christine, can the Journey First team advise organisations regarding appropriate roles and role descriptors? And then in brackets, it says feeding West Cheshire. I have to admit I'm not entirely certain about that question. Is anybody on the panel familiar with what Christine is raising? Christine, could I ask you just to further explain that for us, please?
Yes, hello. What I was wondering is if as an organisation we wanted to engage, well, we're not one organisation, it's a network of organisations and charities working together in Cheshire West and Chester. If we wanted to engage in this programme, do we have to identify the roles that we would want somebody to be able to undertake? Or do we have to come to you and sort of negotiate that with you? I mean, whether it's in administration or warehousing or whatever area, because there could be a number of areas.
Thank you, Christine, for explaining further. Yes, Claire, you seem ideally placed to answer this question.
Hi, Christine. I'm Claire Latham, Cheshire from Cheshire West and Chester. No, you wouldn't need to do that. Just refer through the employment mentoring process. Would work through all that vocational profiling with the customer, and it would all be part of the process. All you would need is somebody who you felt would benefit from the project, who wanted to get into work, who had who you thought was eligible and would benefit, and leave the rest to us. So we'll just get a referral form out to you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Claire. Just before I move on, Sally and Kerry, your hands are still up. If you've got further questions, just before I move on to Sarah. No.
Sorry.
Okay, Sarah. No, that's absolutely fine. Just checking. Sarah.
Hello. Just a quick couple of questions, really. First one was in terms of your cohort for YPS, does this cover all of the young people that you've been directly working with, or will there be some people will stay on the service that they already have now and some people will be identified for Journey First?
Ruth, did you want to? Yes, thank you, Sarah. Ruth, did you want to answer that?
Yeah, sure, I'll answer that one. Thanks, Sarah. Yeah, it's basically that those young people who have already been identified who are NEET, which we are working with already as a YPS service, all of them will be eligible, or most of them, shall we say, 99% will be eligible for the Journey First project. So they will be offered this project. Those that are currently in year 11, so they're 15 or 16 and have been identified by the school as risk of NEET, they will also be offered Journey First. So the main young people that we can't offer it to yet are those that we currently work with in year 9 and 10. But obviously, as they move through the school years, when they reach year 11 and they are still identified as being at risk of NEET, it's at that point that we can offer Journey First to them. And because the programme will be running for 2, hopefully 3 years, then as they're coming through that journey, so the current year 9s, they will be able to be offered it when they reach year 11.
Okay, thank you very much. I just had one more question. In terms of working with other agencies and recording, what systems as children's would you be recording on, and would you be attending TAF meetings or running TAFs, or how would that interact with that sort of process?
Yeah, so in terms of how we work now as Young People Service, that will continue. So all of that runs alongside Journey First. So if one of our staff is already attending TAF meetings, then yes, we will continue to do that. And if that need arises as the project continues, then again, yeah, we would continue to attend those TAF meetings. And if we need to be a lead on those TAFs, then yeah, again, as an individual discussion, that would happen. We will be recording on our current IYSS system, also known as Core Plus, but we will also have a new database called Yeti, which a lot of the staff are having training on at the moment, and if they're on Journey First, then their information will be recorded on the Yeti system as well. Does anyone want to add anything to that?
Thanks for that.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Ruth. So just to clarify on the chat, Sarah Williams has just asked whether there's a specific criteria available for providers to know exactly who can be referred in. Claire has answered that question to say that it will be on the initial referral form, but it is on a slide and those will be sent out after today. And then Brian, your question is, will we have Journey First information of some form we can email out to young people and parents? Because he has already had a few parents asking about this. So I feel that's probably a mixture of Phil and Lee, potentially, because it's sort of a sub-regional issue in terms of marketing, but it's also a YPS issue as well. So Phil, did you want to go first?
Yeah, we do have flyers available, so we will send that out at the end of this meeting with the referral forms. We are very soon, probably start of next week, we'll actually have a fact sheet as well. So this is something that another referral partner had asked us to put together. So we are actually just putting that together and branding that at the moment, and we'll be able to send that out to you as well. So very much a fact sheet of what we do and who it's for.
Mm-hmm. Just to add to that, thank you, Phil, is that a lot of the conversations that we've had currently have been around word of mouth. So again, all of our staff have gone through the briefing sessions, so they're very familiar with what Journey First means and also how it can help and support our young people. So I think it's one is about having the factual information, but it's also for our staff's understanding as well, so they're able to impart that information to our client group.
Thank you very much, Lee. Thank you, Phil. And Lorraine is asking, does the Year 11 risk of NEET referral process via schools include all children in care placed in Wirral and Cheshire East, as well as in Borough? Is there one referral form across all three boroughs? I think Lee and Ruth, if you would like to answer that.
In terms of our risk of NEET, how we identify our risk of NEET is that we have a tool called Ronnie. Now, our risk of NEET indicator has been in place for a number of years now, and that draws on live data, and that can include the number of factors such as school attendance, exclusions, etc. From that data, we're able to then provide an aggregate score to each young person on those very rich risk factors, from which then we share that with our schools. And because one thing we aren't able to capture through this process is the resilience element that a young person has and support network around that young person. So we share that information with schools, we have that discussion with our schools, from which then we identify those young people who we feel will most benefit from the advice and guidance that is provided by Young People Service, and that will incorporate Journey First. In regards to support of out of borough placed young people, that will be continued, but that will be through the virtual school to provide that support in terms of their engagement in opportunities post 16.
So can I just chip in there to hopefully answer Lorraine's question? So yes, Lorraine, the the project covers Cheshire West, Cheshire East and Warrington. So across those 3 boroughs, it's the same referral form, and you can talk to us individually about how to refer that young person in. Yes, we should already have that information for those children in care who are in year 11, because yourselves and social care pass that information on to us. If there is a young person who is resident elsewhere, but are supported by Cheshire West and Chester social care, again, we'd have those individual conversations with you as to whether we're the right people to support that, and it is this programme Journey First that's the right appropriate service for them, or whether it may be better to refer them to wherever they're living at the moment. And if that's quite a long-term placement, if we've got similar projects running in those areas, then we'd look at what's available to them there.
Thank you very much, Lee. Thank you, Ruth. And I just have a one other thing that's just come up on the chat is just about the social media presence, and you have got the link for the Twitter. And Caitlin, who is communications team member for this project across all 3 areas, and she is clear that there will be other social media that will follow. I don't know whether you want to expand upon that, Phil.
There's not so much expansion really. We're looking into which social media works best for us by speaking to people who worked on other contracts to see what has worked for them. At this time, we're aware that Twitter is the most accessible and the one where we'll be able to put most information out in a timely way to you. There are thoughts of using Facebook in the future. Again, we're very much open to listening to what you as referral partners feel is the best use of social media. So if you have any suggestions for us, please do let us know.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to clarify on here the hands. I haven't got any further hands. There's nothing else coming through on the chat. So can I just take this time to thank everybody presenting today and for your efforts and explaining things very, very clearly. Thank you so much to all of the attendees today and for your very pertinent questions. As already been stated, the presentation will be sent out, and you will be able to email any individual questions, queries, queries about particular adults and young people which are potentially not pertinent for this larger meeting, to those individually, and we can move forward with that. We are, as I said at the very beginning, it's incredibly positive and really, really timely that we are doing something like this now. This is an excellent time in which to embed a project, and it's excellent that we're able to take on this funding and go ahead with this at this time. And it's very lovely to have conversations that, yes, we are still affected by COVID, of course, that goes without saying, but it's very lovely to be talking about positive support for young people and adults at this time, and to remind ourselves that this is a 2 to 3 year project, and we're not going away anywhere anytime soon, and we're laying the groundwork and foundations for some excellent supportive work to go ahead. So thank you so much for your commitment. We look forward to hearing from you as referrers, and for you to help spread the word of Journey First 1.2 and 1.4. Thank you very much.
Thank you.